Welcome, Stunthanger fans. We're live. It is Monday, January 27th, 2020. And as some of you might notice, I've got myself wired to the computer because my sound system went bluey tonight and I'm on earphones, which is extremely annoying, especially because now I can hear all of my voice inside of my cranium, which just ain't natural. I'll deal with it the best I can. But anyway, welcome to the Stunthanger Control Line Forums Hangouts, and we'll be with you till about midnight tonight. And got to get rid of that until I need to hear somebody. And we'll hang out till about midnight, probably maybe a little bit later, depends on how the conversation's going. All the links, as usual, are in their places on the Stunthanger Control Line Forum. If you're logged in as a member, then you can go to the At the Bench thread, which is on the main forum page, where you would find the open forum. If you scroll down past the open forum and look at the other headers, one says live streams, and the first post inside of that one has tonight's date in it and the title for the show. So click the link in there, and you can come in with your camera and microphone. Otherwise, you can hang out on YouTube and anonymously if you prefer. And if you want to talk to us there, you can use the text chat box, and I'll try to include the conversations into that. And right now, we've already got a couple of people popped up on the YouTube side. Jack Snavely and Bob Bishop are out there. And thanks, Bob, for the links you posted. I started looking at them just briefly before the show tonight. It was the first time I looked at my email all day. And looks like you sent me some good reading material. That's pretty good, about old NASA archives and that sort of thing. Jack Snavely, hello. Hello again, people in Stuntland and in the hangar or shop. Yes, all of us. And here comes Tom Reynolds, my first video visitor. So now I got to plug my earphone in. Dang, I'm not liking this. Hey, Tom.
Hi, Rusty.
How are you?
I'm good.
My sound system fried. Apparently, this old Logitech sound system, it's a 5.1 speaker system I bought for the computer 3 computers ago. So it's probably 15 years old at least. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but I guess I got to go out and buy a new one now. But I rebooted like I do every night, and there was no sound when it came back on. And I always reboot before I start the show just so everything's clear in memory. And I couldn't hear anything, and the power light's not on. I pushed the button and shook the wires, and nothing's happening. I wasn't going to drag the box out of the cabinet and look at the wiring behind it 10 minutes before the show. So we'll go with the earplugs tonight. But man, I got to tell you, it is annoying especially with the wire going right across my mouse pad. So anyway, got that off my chest. Now, you have a good weekend.
Yeah, every Saturday nowadays is involved with the robotics
Robot
team,
Day.
so
Yeah,
we
I
got
saw that
quite a
video.
bit.
Or you sent me some pictures and a video, I think, and it was all
Right?
pretty elaborate. I was surprised. Very,
Yeah.
very good setup you got there. A lot of busy
So
kids.
we're making progress on the robot, but we've only got about 3 weeks total left. But that third week, they want to do a practice competition. So really, that only leaves 2 weeks.
That's not a lot of
To
time,
not
man.
a lot of time. You're right. So deadline's coming up, but
Well,
I probably won't stay on too long tonight because I've got to get up early in the morning and go to work. But I've been kind of tired out from doing the robotics thing every weekend,
yeah.
and then my wife's car, the transmission went out in her car, so
Of course it
We had
did. Yeah.
we had to go car shopping, and I had to take care of getting her car towed, all that stuff. So
What kind
it's
of
been
cars
kind
are
of
y'all looking
hectic.
at?
Um, we bought her a new Impala.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's she had an Impala before 2011 Impala.
Yeah.
So we bought a 2019 Impala.
So I'll have to look at pictures of Impalas. They've changed over the years. They're not full size cars anymore, are they?
Yeah, they still are a full size
Are
car.
they still that? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I mean they're not as big as they used to be, in the '60s, but
Right. Yeah,
but
of course.
they are considered a full size car.
Okay. Well, good. I
It's
hope
just
that
like
works out.
all cars nowadays are smaller than they used to be.
Yeah.
Lincolns and everything, they're just downsized
e-
from what we used to, the big boats
Even
we
though
used to drive.
even though people are about twice as big as they used to be.
Yeah.
Are you speaking
Hey,
about
John,
me? How you doing?
I'm
Hey,
okay.
John.
I'm
Yeah,
not having to.
I'm about twice as big as I used to be.
Y'all forgive me if I seem like I have trouble hearing or if I seem overly fidgety tonight. I'm working with earplugs because my sound system fried, so having to
Uh-oh.
deal with that anomaly.
Well,
But
everything else okay though?
pretty good, yeah. Just tired of the. I know I shouldn't be talking to you Northerners about cold weather, but it just still irritates the hell out of me. Wintertime sucks. That's the
Well,
best way I can kind of describe it.
I'm about as far north as you are, but I'm on the west side of the country in the mountains.
Yeah, you're
So
a
I make
a
a
lot
big.
higher altitude. I'm at 350 feet in Columbia.
Yeah, I'm 4,600.
Yeah,
But it wasn't bad today. It was up in the 40s.
well, that's all right then. It was
But
We
in
it
had
the.
was down at night.
19 degrees.
Were you at 19?
Yeah.
Banana belt. That's a term, Rusty, we use out in the Midwest when it's real cold and there's a town nearby that's 2 degrees warmer than us.
Oh yeah, they live in the banana belt.
In the banana belt, yeah.
That's funny. I bet
Now
they find it funny too.
it was about 28, 22, somewhere like that last night. It's gonna be colder than that tonight. So the storm we had going through is all gone through, and the clouds are gone. So it's going to get cold.
Yeah, it woke up. It woke up rainy today, and then cleared on up by lunchtime. So not
Yeah.
too bad. It seems like
Well,
every day that's clear here has been windy lately.
yeah. Well, I've noticed watching the weather patterns. We get our weather comes down from Alaska and from the North Pacific, comes in down through Seattle and down through and sweeps through the Rocky Mountain area, and then heads east. Now, most of that, a lot of that gets turned and winds up in Tom's neck of the woods, but some of it mixes with what's coming up off the Gulf and goes right to you
Yeah,
or in your area. And so you get a combine of what we got and what's coming up from the Gulf of Mexico.
it makes it hard to predict what's going to happen more than a week out when you've got two combined jet. I guess it's like a northern jet and a southern jet stream.
Something like that. One's going to the northeast, basically.
Yeah,
The other's going east, and they clash somewhere over right, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, and part of them go up through Michigan, Wisconsin, and up on
hmm
into Minnesota.
and
That
then
was
the Appalachian chain stirs everything up too. The mountains, when it gets to
yeah,
the Appalachian Mountains, it makes it mix up and go unpredictable ways.
Yeah, it turns there basically and follows them, follows the eastern slope on
Yeah.
up into New York and that area. Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, I brought something for show and tell. I'll show you a little bit about it right now.
Okay.
This is the cowl for my Pathfinder LE. And you notice where the nose gear is? People don't think you can do this, but that is attached to the cowl. Don't have
Oh,
to
yeah.
have it go to a bulkhead. It can attach to the cowl. I got two pins here, 2/8" pins that plug into the nose ring, and I got one down here, a bolt that goes through here and bolts it. Where'd it go? It bolts it.
Hang on, you're coming back.
Oh,
There you
okay. That one there goes in and bolts to the airplane itself, and then these two pins. See them there? Oops. Here we go. You can see one of them now.
It's on.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Anyway, so, and then you see inside there, you see that little thing right there? That's a plywood plate, and there's a piece of plywood in there that accepts the nose gear, and it kind of goes up and makes a turn, and then turns back, and that clamps it onto there and holds it in place. And it's struck hard enough on there, it actually has bent it back a little bit, as you can see there. But this is about the fourth plane that I've done this, mounted the nose gear to the cowl, and I haven't had a problem with it.
Well, good.
I
Yeah,
even
I
had
wouldn't
one.
have expected it to be that tough, but it looks like you did a good job of strengthening it.
Yeah, it's pretty darn tough actually when you get right down to it. This is from my Pathfinder LE. Nice airplane. The one I have, I've had some problems with my soldering techniques on my flap horn, and they're just about all letting loose. I used Stay Bright silver solder on it, but I didn't. I was told that I might consider. Hi, Bob. That I might consider putting a small piece of wire on top and through, and then wrapping that with some copper wire, and then soldering that whole mess together to keep it where it won't turn. My problem is that flap horn has managed to turn on some of my models that I've done it on that with. And I've had to cut in and try to resolder them. It's kind of hard to fix them though when they're already built. So
just use brazing. Just braze them.
yeah, I have to get some map gas or something to do that, wouldn't I?
Yeah, you can do it with a Burns-O-Matic.
Can you?
Yep.
Because that's my problem right now. I've lost a couple airplanes, and I've got 3 or 4 sitting down there to probably be wall hangers because I just can't trust them anymore.
Yeah.
You don't want to be trying to come out of the reverse wing over and set them straight to the ground, and all of a sudden have your controls go mushy. I'm sure, Bob, you've never experienced that.
Yeah. If not
Probably not
that,
on video if you did.
if not that, something equally as embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
That's how you learn.
yeah.
The key is to only do it one time.
I know, but I did it like 5 or 6 times because they all came loose about the same time. So,
Well, then you missed the key.
say what?
Then you missed the key.
I missed. Yeah.
The key to it is to only do it once.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm not known for being super smart. But it really is true that, let's see, my Sheik's Torino, that one went mushy on me. My Pathfinder LE went mushy. I mean, my Randy Smith design my Vector 40 went mushy on me. And there was another one. They all went that way though at about the same time. And every one of them I've had to get in and cut into the fuselage to try to fix them. And I'm just not satisfied that I can trust them anymore. How you doing, Denny?
Hey, Denny.
Hello, brother.
Hi, everybody.
Anyway, I'll shut up and let somebody else talk for a minute.
Well, hey, I want to show off.
Cloud cutter.
Great Lake
Huh?
Yeah,
Fluid Company.
you guys ever buy a beer based on the label? All right, I did.
I've done that, Denny.
Yeah.
We got one out here that's called Polygamy Beer.
All right.
It shows
Anyhow.
the guy with his arm around his 3 wives. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, that's right. You are in Utah, right?
Right. We joke about it.
Yeah. I think it tastes like it's going to crash, but anyway.
We fantasize about it. You joke about it. We fantasize about it.
Okay, well, truth be known, just a few miles from where I live here, we've got a polygamous enclave there, and their families come into town to buy groceries and stuff like that. A couple of them work as caregivers over. I mean, the women. A couple of them work as caregivers over at the care center, and they're basically just plain old people that have got a different idea how they want to live. I say leave them be.
Yeah.
That's the thing about people. That's all kinds of, takes all kinds. So whatever.
Yeah, it does. It does. You can always spot one because the women wear dresses that look like they were from 100 years ago, and they all have long hair, really long hair, and they pile it up. Anyway, you can just spot them from a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
Now the guys, they all wear normal clothing. They just look like anybody else, some old farmer or rancher or whatever. But the women, you can always spot them.
Holly, my wife Holly used to say that about Sarah Palin. She thought Sarah Palin looked like she belonged to some kind of a religious cult or something, the way she had her hair piled up.
Actually, I lived in Alaska for 10 years back in the 70s. And she lives over in Wasilla. And in Wasilla, there was a pretty big fundamentalist Christian movement over there. They're not polygamists. They're just fundamentals. And she was part of that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I just can't think of it. Every one of those wives that means that you have that many mother-in-laws too.
Yeah. Yeah. And father-in-laws. Don't forget about them.
I'm not sure where the trade-off is there, guys. I don't think I'm into that. So.
Well, and you think you got trouble with one wife want you to do things all the time. Imagine having 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what they want you to do.
You're looking at the rosy side of it there, Bob.
That's it. Oh, well. So anyhow, with that, good to see everybody again. Tom, we missed you last week. So, or Friday.
Yeah.
Figured you were buried under snow or something. But.
He was mentoring teenagers on building robots.
Oh my.
Yeah, we're in that robot building season right now. Have about 3 weeks left total to get it built. So every Saturday, that's where I am.
Do they are these battling?
We just had a discussion on polygamy. Now we're having a discussion on robots. Is it somehow going to get into the Stepford Wives here pretty soon? Or?
I'll try to head it off.
Hey, right on cue. Here comes Steve, right?
Yeah. Were you guys talking about me or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve will talk about anything. Hey, Greg Rodney just dropped in. He said his laptop fried the other night, so that's probably why he dropped out suddenly. So he's got to get a new one. Said one's on the way. Greg will see you when you get it set up.
I think
Yeah,
I
well.
figured out why I can't share anything off my screen. I think I got my laptop just about maxed as far as memory and all of that.
So
I think that's what's going on. Because I
I
put
don't know.
I put my arrow on my picture there, and it tells me that and click it, and it tells me, oops, that said flip. Anyway, it tells me that I got a good signal and all that, and how much all that, and yet I can't share anything. I have to have Denny do it all for me.
Yeah, I remember. You do
I
have
think
do
Rusty's
do appear to
blocking
have a
you.
good
He's
signal.
just not telling you.
Say what?
Rusty's blocking you. He's just not telling you, John.
Oh, okay.
Man. I don't. Rusty don't block Santa Claus.
that's right. That's
You
right.
know, before you shaved your beard, you could share stuff.
Yeah.
You shaved your beard off. You're no longer Santa Claus. You can't give out presents.
Maybe
I
that's
lost
it.
my mojo. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh.
Rusty, he messes with me because he's cold there in Carolinas and he needs coal.
He needs coal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, hey,
yeah. I'm
Rusty,
whining about the cold weather.
you were talking last weekend. You thought or last Friday, you thought you were going to be able to spend some time in the shop over the weekend. Did that come together for you?
Me?
I did a little bit. Yeah. We Saturday we went over to my son's house and hung around on the patio on Saturday night, and so I was kind of sore and tired of being on concrete. So I didn't think I was going to be able to make it in the shop because that concrete floor just sucks the life out of me. But I did. I got out there and did some super fill on the spots where I had hollowed the log out a little bit too thin, and got it ready to glue the clamshell together. And so that's some progress. And
That's definitely progress.
I got that little whittling project done that I've been doing, making the air scoop for the Venturi, and so it's looking all right, and actually accomplished something. So that's good. And I spent about 2 hours out there, and it didn't kill me. It was a little bit warmer yesterday, so the concrete floor wasn't all that cold, and had a good time.
All right, that's good. That's good. You spent more time in the shop than I did, then. So
We're getting
Yeah,
put you some in-floor heat in that shop there, Rusty.
Some what?
In-floor heat.
Well, it's just a concrete slab on top of the ground, Steve. I don't know how I'd do that unless I run some hot water lines and put a floor on top of them.
Yep. That's what you just raise it up.
That way.
actually, you've seen things like a lot of industrial sites and stuff like that. They put like rubber mats on the floor, right? Just walking around, it just really takes.
Yeah, they really work.
It's amazing how close you can get to that. Take just plain old 1/8-inch thick corrugated cardboard. Do the same trick. Just lay it on the floor, and it'd be amazed at how much softer the floor gets over the course of several hours and stuff. And where you are at your hips and stuff like that, recovering and stuff, you might notice that. And that's something you can probably do pretty cheap and stuff.
You can
get a couple of big boxes, just kind of spread them out on the floor and see if that helps you out any.
You can get interlocking. You can get those interlocking rubber mats. Interlock from Sam's Club.
Yeah, like puzzle pieces. That's what I've been eyeing too. Wayne's got that in his shop around all the tables and made walkways between the work areas.
Yep.
And I've got just throw mats like 1/2-inch thick foam rubber mats that the cashiers stand on at the grocery store. A couple of those, but they're about worn out now. So now that it's time to replace them, I need to get some of those little puzzle piece mats that go down around the walkways in there.
Yeah, that would be the best of all.
That'd probably make me feel a lot better. Yeah.
And if you put it in a little bit of heat, they'll actually then insulate. That'll warm up quicker than cement floor.
Yeah.
The top layer of that rubber will warm up just a little bit, insulate off that floor.
Yeah, but remember, he said he's also got the trouble when he gets heavy rain, he gets some flood or some water in there and stuff like that. So you got to be careful what he does.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, it rarely comes in to more than one corner of the shop, which I could leave uncushioned and probably get away with it most of the time. And every 3 or 4 years, I might have to rip the whole thing up and dry it out, but I could probably live with that.
Yeah. But yeah, if you can do something soft on the floor, especially, with to your with your hips and everything like that, that might be something, might be worth your while.
Yeah.
But, so.
Did you finish binge watching, Rusty?
It's who?
Did you finish binge watching?
Oh, no, I didn't. It was a busy weekend. I don't have much time on the weekend evenings to be able to do that. And last night I went to bed earlier. And so, no, maybe I'll probably do it tomorrow night, because once I sit down, I've only got 2 more shows to go. And I'll probably turn it on and watch both of them. We're talking about the new 2020 version of Lost in Space, which is on Netflix right now. And it's a good sci-fi show if you like sci-fi. So, yeah, I'll probably finish it off tomorrow night. It'll be too late after I finish with you guys tonight.
Well, like I said, we've been running longer and longer, it seems. So we had some pretty good sessions on the last few things. So.
Yeah, I don't feel good after I stay up till 2 in the morning either. So, when we shut off here at 2, it's another 30, 45 minutes before I can get in bed too. So, yeah, that's late.
Yeah, it is.
So, Bob, you working on anything of your own right now, or?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been working a lot. Matter of fact, I just got out of the shop a little while ago, working on my own project.
That's great.
Great. So you got caught up on all your other stuff, huh?
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty well. I mean, I still got work to do, but at least I don't have to work around the clock now. So.
So you doing a full-size version of Occam's Razor?
No. There'll be, but there is a canard in the future, but it won't be an Occam's Razor.
Oh, okay.
Something totally new. Robbie's really involved in the canards, and he's got one. Yeah, we've been flying one in the backyard. We got a big enough yard to fly up to about 15 size airplanes, and he's got one that performs really well.
That's good.
Denny was showing some of his brothers what they call triple
canards. Yeah, put an extra canard up front, or put a canard on a normal airplane, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Talk about how they flew, Denny.
It flew really well. I flew it just one time, and I was really impressed with how well it just felt rock solid and level flight in the groove. But as soon as you ask it to come out, it would do a great corner, and it would flatten right back out and everything like that. It felt like it was. I thought the canard was going to make it feel more unstable, but I think in this case it actually seemed to stabilize it. It seemed to be held in whatever position you put the airplane, dead level, hit a corner, whatever. Did nice rounds, did nice squares. Like I say, I only flew it the one time, and
did it transition?
So that making a vast proclamation based on half-vast data. You know what I mean? But,
did it transition really easily between at the round maneuvers at the intersection point?
It seemed, I flew a pattern on it, and it felt like it was doing all of that really well. It didn't seem to have any. It seemed to transition nice. The rounds, the verticals, and stuff. And of course, the squares, there's all cornering and everything like that. It just flew really nice.
How come you didn't pursue it?
I even flew it with the one-bladed prop. All right, so he had that for a while. That it just didn't look right, but it worked. So what the hell? So.
How come he didn't pursue, or the family didn't pursue that any further?
He wasn't. I don't think he was just that interested. Arch is the kind of guy who likes to. He does. I'd like to. He'll do something, build it, see what it's like, and everything like that. But at the same time, he was flying RC pylon and stuff like that. And I think that's where his heart is. He really likes pylon racing. His kids are involved in it. For the longest time, while his kids, were growing up and stuff like that, he was away from stunt. He had them building indoor rubber models, peanut scales, and stuff like that. And as a result, his kids learned how to build really well. Building peanut scales and stuff really encourages, building techniques and stuff like that, which is easier to transition. That's why Archie always had really nice airplanes. Arch 3, I should say, his son. He was always a really good builder because he learned how to build on indoor free flight scale models. And so that was good. So I think it was more he built it and he tried it and then he moved on to something else. He just didn't really stick with it or anything like that. The airplane still exists. They've been threatening to take it home and do a magic engine transplant in it and get it back in the game. So
I just got a note that my mouse battery is low, so I'm going to charge my mouse battery here while I'm talking to you guys.
All righty. Anyhow, yeah, I did. Let me see if I can find it.
You got a picture of that, don't you?
I got a picture of his somewhere. Let me see. Oh, wrong place. Yeah, don't wait for me right now. Talk about something else. It's gonna take me a while to find those. It's gonna take me a while to find all those things here. So
I'm trying to wonder what that endless October sign on Bob's chest there means.
That is a free flight contest. One of my very good friends that I play a lot of music with, but he's also a model airplane flyer of some great note. His name is David Rounceville. Now, Denny probably knows that name. You remember that name? David,
yeah, who is it again?
David Rounceville.
Not ringing any bells.
Remember an airplane called a free flight airplane called the Excelsior?
Okay.
That was his design. It was published in Flying Models. He had several different versions of it. He was a national free flight champion and also on our world free flight team. And he gave me a bunch of his old shirts. He had a bunch of shirts he got and he wasn't wearing them. And he gave me, and listen, you get free clothes, you wear them,
Actually, I was admiring your hat too. Is that a Palmer Invitational or something?
Memorial hat, yeah. I got this when I went out to. I was invited by the Knights of the Round Circle Club out when Larry Renger was inducted into the AMA Hall of Fame, and they wanted another AMA Hall of Famer to actually be there to present the trophy. And they asked me if I would come out, and I said I'd be honored, but I just couldn't afford it. They sent me a ticket. So I flew out, and they had the banquet, and I presented that. They also had the contest, the Mackey contest. And at that time, I was leaving my Caprice out at Warren Tiart's house in Tucson, and I would fly out every year and visit it for VSC, and then I'd leave it there, And so I called up Warren, and I asked him, "Are you going up to the Mackey contest?" And he said, "Yeah." He and Bob Whiteley were driving up together. So I said, "Could you bring my Caprice up?" And he did, and I flew it on the Saturday in Classic and won that. And then they asked me, I was going to judge the next day, and they asked me to fly. So I flew it in Expert and won that too. So Whiteley wasn't too happy about that. Brought the airplane up to beat him.
Well, some people you just can't please, So
he wasn't really mad.
That's it. Sent you a ticket, you came out and beat his ass. I mean, what the hell?
It's really interesting. Here's a real note about control line stunt flyers and competitors like that. I was having the fuel I had there wasn't working properly, and I was having real engine run problems on Sunday, and I was going to pull out of the contest. And he said, "Here, try a tank of this fuel." We did a test run that ran perfectly, so he gave me another tank of fuel, and I beat him. So that's how it works in this event, Well,
that's it. That's it. Okay, I found some pictures. Let me see if I can get sharing here.
So, Bob, you think Robbie's gonna get back into competitive flying at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, there you go. Look at that. Now tell me that's not cool, guys.
That's nice.
Well, there's a lot of nice. I mean, even if it had been just a normal airplane, I love the wing on it. It was like 65 inches, about a 10. It's like a 6.5 to 1 aspect ratio. And
You guys were famous for, you know.
yeah, well, he was nudging that way. I took it a little further, but you know, he was always on that page. And if you take, it's hard to tell. The tail on it is by today's standards, I mean, that's fairly small, but the tail and the canard together are actually quite sizable.
Yeah.
And you know, the canard is on a short moment, but it's in a very effective prop stream and everything like that.
Yeah, it's got like
And you know, he put it together kind of, you know, kind of a TLAR kind of approach as far as throws and stuff like that. And you didn't have can't look anybody in the eye and say this was optimized. You know, maybe it had more in it, but I can tell you the way it was, it flew really, really good.
well, it's obviously a modified Nobler. So
Obviously. Yeah, he only used one foot on it and everything like that. So
Now
okay,
that,
and then I wanted to show you.
you had a
Am I
set.
the only one that can't see this? Can
Yeah,
everybody
I'm
else
seeing.
see?
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
You can't see it.
I don't see it. No, I
Now
just
that-
have a gray
that
screen.
canard had an elevator on it.
Yes.
Now this is absolutely cool.
You're not getting it, Tom?
That's
No,
a real.
This was
canard.
my canard.
I'm getting seriously excited here, guys.
It took me a minute before I could see it too, but now I can.
Look at that.
Yeah, I can't see it. I don't know why.
Oops.
They used-
How did that fly? Dennis?
Very trainer like. It flew. It was stable and everything like that. Do beautiful rounds. Yeah, sort of squares and forget the triangles. All right. It really didn't fly that well. Didn't fly corners or anything like that. And the biggest problem I had with it was with the line guide. I originally had the line guide on a little outrigger coming off the canard, and it wasn't far enough out, so I moved it into this. And then the problem I had with that was that this was on such a long moment arm. It was actually, I think, twisting the wing.
Right.
Do a turn, and it would actually, the line whip and everything like that would actually twist that.
Did you have trouble getting that accepted on Ringathon Day?
Get it accepted on what again?
Ringathon, the Ringmaster.
No, they kind of didn't even let me in the field on that. So I didn't fly it an awful lot, and I never flew it in a contest or anything. But it was fun. And I don't know. It's one of those things like, okay, would I ever do it again? Well, I haven't even tried. So if I did it again, I'm going to try to come up with some kind of a line guide that maybe spans the two wings and kind of spreads the load a little bit. And that might work a little better.
Yeah.
And frankly, something, now that we've learned a little bit more about it, I think something like the spectral lines that are so light would get rid of some of the line whip, and maybe that all by itself might get rid of some of the deflection, the wing deflection I was getting and stuff like that. So,
That's seriously cool.
well, it was, this is what you do when you can't sleep at night, right? You just start making sketches and everything. I actually really liked the fuselage on it. The outline of the fuselage I thought was kind of cool, but
I love
oh
it.
well. It's it's one of those things. It's like you can't build the same old stuff all the time. So I don't know.
Has anyone tried a canard that actually the whole canard moves like on a real airplane, or do they always put the elevator on it?
I don't know if anybody's tried a full flying canard on a control line airplane. I don't know if anybody's tried flying even with a fixed elevator. The trouble what you got to watch out for and remember is if you have a full flying canard, the airfoil will still stall, and if it stalls, you have no lift, no lift off the canard at all, and that can be a good thing if you're looking for something that's stall proof. You pull the nose up and then it won't grab anymore, and then the nose just dips. But it's probably not a very happy place for a stunt plane to be. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, same thing with a stabulator on and even in the back, if you're trying to fly a full stabulator on a stunt plane, you have to be aware of the fact that it can stall out, and when it stalls out, you're going to lose an awful lot of the power that you think you got there, and you're going to run out of turn and stuff like that. So I don't know. The combat guys have gotten stabilators trimmed to the point where you think we ought to be, we could probably try and get away with them, but you know there's been a few odd tries here and there, but I guess I'm not aware of any that I would call successful, or successful enough that people stuck with them. So.
Well, now
Hello,
I've got a question here. That I see some of these combat ships. Gordy's got some, of his from years back, and he's got probably a stabilizer, but it's probably like less than 5%, and all the rest of it is elevator, and it turns very well. But I've been told that it's worthwhile looking into having on a stunt ship, having more stabilator, like 60% stabilator, 40% elevator into that area. Cut the elevator, kind of like the Flight Streak had that little narrow elevator back there.
Mm-hmm.
Yet turned pretty darn good. And I've done that on some of my designs. I've run about 60-40, and I've had really pretty decent results from it.
It goes back to the name, John. Stabilizer.
Yeah. Well, and like the Pathfinder LE. I mean, I've got it here. I've got it sitting right here, and it's got about 60-40 on the elevator. We use about 27 degrees on the flap and about 33 degrees on the elevator. No problems with it,
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I've always thought the 60-40 was a pretty good split. I know there's a lot of guys and a lot of contests won with 50-50s. And you look at some of the classic designs, the Ares and whatever had, Ares, Argus, those things all had fairly small stabilizers and fairly large, larger.
What was the guy's name that designed the Jupiter? Used to fly with Art Pulaski a lot.
What about Art again?
Well, the guy that used to fly with Art, he had an airplane called the Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
You remember his name?
Jim Ebinger, Don Baca.
I don't think of it in a minute. But at any rate, he had a full flying stabulator.
Bob Daly.
No, another guy.
Sam Daly on.
Daly did have one, but this other guy had one too, and I can't think of his name.
Mm.
Did it fly well or not?
I don't know.
Among the Detroiters, Bob Daly, who was the originator of the I-beam concept and everything like that, and I'm quoting the articles that Fred Carnes did for you at Flying Models.
Right.
Bob Daly evolved into full flying tails, and then one of his proteges is a man named Sam DeLeon, who built essentially the same airplane, but he moved the pivot point to like 50%, which flat out shouldn't have worked. And that airplane was actually published in Stunt News.
Yeah, that was DeLeon.
Fred Carnes did a nice plan on it and everything like that. And on the plan, he also called out the fact that, in the article on the plan, he called out the pivot point that the Daily used, which is like 26%, which is about where it should have been normally, and recommended people build it there. Well, I've looked at that doggone plan so many times. I'm going to build one of these days, just cause. And I'd like to see. My feeling is that it ought to be. Well, it's actually old time legal, of course, with a flap penalty, but it's old time legal, and wondering if it isn't going to be a fairly reasonable classic airplane. And the only question mark is just how good can you make the stabilizer fly? And is it going to be uncontrollable? Is it going to be strange that way? So there is a story that Bob McDonald's dad, Roland McDonald, tried flying Sam's airplane and actually pancaked it. He couldn't even fly the thing level because that was the one with the 50% pivot and everything like that, and it tended to like control snatch, if you will. As it should with the pivot that far back. So
it would get over center.
Yeah. So
it would be like a toggle. It would toggle lock.
Yeah. And then I don't know, Michael Seelig, who did all the glider airfoil stuff, got his doctorate on the low-speed wind tunnel test with glider airfoils and stuff like that, and developed all the stuff for the glider guys. He made a comment about, he's got a little section in his airfoil in his report that said something about stabilator airfoils, and just basically a lot of people in sailplanes are using basically flat plates. And he says, obviously don't go there. And then he was pointing out some of the differences in some of the other airfoils that people had tried. And he made a comment that a lot of the airfoils were nonlinear in their response. So like right around neutral, you didn't get much lift change or anything like that. But then you'd reach a point where all of a sudden they'd grab like crazy.
Right.
And that doesn't sound like a happy place for a stunt plane either. So,
by the way, I remember that guy's name. It was Rod Ferris. He's the guy that had that Jupiter. It was
okay.
Yeah, he was friends with Art Pulaski.
Okay.
And apparently, it was a good flying airplane.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've never seen one fly. And I have never seen a stabilator stunt plane fly. I think that's true. I don't recall that I ever have. And you hear about them every now. Somebody tried this, somebody tried that, and you never hear anything else about them. So
I had a discussion recently with Larry Scarinzi about his Jolly Flapper and his Super Flapper. If you remember those.
Very, very like 60 or 70% flap wings, right?
Yeah, wings were like more than 50% was flat.
Yeah.
He only moved them a few degrees, so it's
right.
variable undercamber airfoil is what it was. And he said they flew very well.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that might be so. I'd like to actually go borrow the Super Flapper, still like brand new, and take it out and see how that works.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I really like I like the idea. Even old time stunt right now is just everybody settled on a half dozen, just a few airplanes and stuff like that, and they're all settling on airplanes that they all perform pretty well. They're all pretty safe airplanes, and it's like where's the fun in that? Let's celebrate the era, Let's celebrate the free thinkers here.
Why don't you do something different in old time stunt, like come out with a giant wing or something,
Well, the thought occurs, and the shock is the thing flies. If there's a disappointment with it, is that it flies so docile. It's so easy to fly. It really flies nice.
It's so great. I was so amazed when I watched it fly.
Yeah. What, a 78-inch wing, and then nose to tail, it's actually shorter than a barnstormer. So,
wow.
But and it flies well. But obviously the biggest reason I built that is because it had my dad's name on it. I mean. So, I've talked to Bob McDonald some, and he says he's got a couple of pictures of airplanes his dad built in the old time era. No plans or anything like that. And I says, well, my God, if we got a picture and you got a couple of references, you can do a pretty darn good set of, you can get them 3D scanned even on a single picture or 3D.
If you know one dimension and you have a picture there's a program now that can actually give you all the other.
Yeah, you can get a scan of it, and then if you get like a good dimension anywhere on it, it becomes like a scaling factor for the whole.
Doing that with McDonald's Stiletto 700. The plans didn't exist for that, and the airplane was damaged, was destroyed. But Les has recently come up with some numbers on it, and I have a lot of pictures of it, so we can. And I have the templates. I cut the wing for it, so we can probably duplicate that one. That way.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing. I mean, it was a gorgeous airplane and everything like that. So
I think it's the prettiest stiletto,
yeah. So
Always wanted to build one of those. One of those airplanes you always felt. I was always so pissed off because that's the airplane I wanted to design. I said that's something I would like to have designed.
yeah.
Nice airplane.
Yeah. I don't know. It's and you guys out east, there's so many of your airplanes that were local and maybe didn't make it to the nationals. And so I understand. I'm not on Facebook, but my brother was just telling me. He says that Andy Lee has been putting out a bunch of pictures,
Photos, yeah.
a couple of a day or something like that. And he says he doesn't recognize. My brother doesn't recognize a lot of the airplanes and stuff, but he recognizes the eras and everything like that. It'd be fun, for some of those to come up. So.
Well, we used to build to a formula. We used to get this what we call the super wing, which is a little bit thicker than a nobler wing and a little bit wider. And we build on the wood. We just actually measure out on the wood and build the airplane. Schaefer and Simons, Lampioni, and we all did that. So we never do plans unless the airplane flew good enough to get published, and then we draw plans for it.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And how many airplanes I built off a 3x5 card sketch or something like that, and you just start doing it. So
I was thinking we're going to be, something you'd want to have record of in the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Fred Carnes he got a little lost I think in some of the formulas and stuff like that. He was trying to figure there was some kind of secret formula to the I-beam designs and stuff. And I talked to Roland McDonald about it. She said there never was anything like that. She says what we had a bunch of 15-year-old kids. And it says, hey, get a Fox 35. Here's a 36-inch piece of wood. You put the Fox 35 on one end. You measure back 12 inches. That's where the I-beam spar goes, Yeah. And you measure, and then all the way at the back, that's where the tail goes. That was the design formula,
Well, I put Carnes in touch with Werwich, because he wanted to get some historical data. And that's exactly what Werwich told him. He says, since there's no code or secret, dimensions.
Yeah.
Built them,
Yeah, and the formula, and there was a formula, but it wasn't in the context he was trying to put it. The formula was, hey, kid, you put these pieces in these places, you're going to get an airplane that's going to be the right size, it's going to balance right, and it's going to fly, right? If you put the I-beam too far forward or too far back, it's going to be nose heavy or tail heavy or this heavy or that, whatever, it's not going to work. And then the beauty of the I-beam wing is that you need like 2 sheets of wood to make all your ribs, and you just sit there and, nothing better to do. You just sit there and just start cutting the strip ribs and keep cutting and keep cutting and keep cutting. And so it was, you think about it it was cheaper than building a kit. It was probably, it was enough to keep them busy. They all did basically the same thing or similar things. And it kept them in the game. They still get a lot of creativity in what the final airplane looked like and stuff like that. It was just by design or by accident. It was a hell of a way to teach a bunch of kids how to build model airplanes. So
now, old time stunt stops at 1950.
52.
52.
Oh, 52. Okay, because a buddy of mine, he's got some old 8mm film, and it was a good friend of mine, his grandpa, and it shows, and we know it was like a 43 Ford, and later on some later model Fords, but not, and we think there was a 1950, so everyone said that was a 50 Ford that was sitting there, but he had a twin engine airplane with 2 Fox 15s on it, and he was flying the old time pattern in this movie.
They had Fox 15s back then?
They did not. They did not.
No.
It either wasn't 15s or it wasn't 1950 because Fox had just barely introduced the 35 in 19. It was post glow plug, so it was like 48 or 49, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe they were 30. They sound like Fox. They did a hell of a break and stuff, but the plane didn't look big enough for 235s on it.
Well, look at Jack Sheik's Mosquito. That's a small airplane.
Yep.
With 235 Fox 35s on it.
Yep.
Well,
okay.
35 didn't have much horse, so you know.
Oh, I got a question from YouTube. Greg Rodney says, so the Curtis Swift from 1950 would qualify for all time?
Yeah,
Yes.
Navy airplane. Yep. Mm-hmm.
In fact, that was John Miskey's favorite, as I understand
Yep.
it.
He had a brown and yellow one that was just gorgeous, and then Tommy Niebuhr had one too.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny to hear you call him Tommy.
I've known Tommy.
I know him as Tom.
I've known him since we were both kids. You know, since we were both teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now he was from around there in New Jersey, wasn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. He had an airplane called the Clipper that I always liked. It was black and red with white pinstripes, big white pinstripes. It was a pretty airplane, and he wasn't the top flyer, one of the top flyers, but he was a good flyer, and certainly one of the guys. You know, so.
Hey, how is Larry's wife doing?
Pretty good, actually. Not bad. Yeah.
That's good to know. How about Larry?
Larry was good. I talked to him, I don't know, about not even a month ago. I saw him. I talked to him since then. But I saw him at that swap meet a couple of months ago. And he looked great, you know.
But Ginger's doing better?
Yeah, Ginger is doing better, he said. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe they'll get to go to some contests again then.
When I was a little kid, I had a crush on his wife. She was the cutest thing. She had red hair and freckles, and she was just really something. Ginger was.
Yeah, she's a nice lady.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Put up with Larry Scarinzi, she's a saint.
Yeah. Yep. St. Ginger.
Scarinzi is never, you know, he's still 17. He's still the same guy he was when he was 17.
Mm-hmm.
Funny.
Yeah, I seen some video or something. I didn't realize he had a bike shop or whatever.
Yeah, bicycle shop, Whippany Bicycle Shop. I bought bicycles there for my kids.
Hmm.
Gave me good deals.
That's funny. Yeah, I just got an email from Larry Fruits asking me about my pink. He saw my pink Canard, and he seen me fly my pink Mythbuster and everything like that. He's asking me how many gallons of pink paint do I have. And he's comparing me to a certain East Coaster there with his bronze. Yeah. You've never heard that before, have you?
Anybody want to buy some bronze?
Bronze, right?
Yeah, John.
But no green, right?
Can you imagine after seeing Dennis's pink plane that he said something about your plane with green on it here a month ago or so?
Yeah. I don't know. Ever since I've become famous for non-green airplanes, shall we say? So anyhow,
I think I'm done with the bronze, though. I think the bronze it's run its course now. You know, I come to the end of the vein of bronze.
I think that happened when Jimmy oh come on,
Billy.
he said you got a bronze dog, and he says you sure do.
Well, actually, this story I've told it here before, but I'll tell it again real quick. You know, I'll abbreviate it. I got into doing these bronze, white, red, and black paint jobs, and Billy hated it. He just hated it. And after a while, I just kept doing them just to piss him off, you know. And I even did a two-tone bronze one, really make him mad. So one day he said, "What do you got, a 55-gallon barrel of that crap? I don't want to see any more of this." So around 1993, we got our first golden retriever. And I called him up on the phone. I said, "Guess what, Billy? I even have a bronze dog." And he says, "Bob, you've had a lot of bronze dogs." Click.
I love it every time I hear that story.
He's so fast. He was a musician, and he's so fast. He has to deal with hecklers on stage all the time. So he's so quick, and he'll stop you right in your tracks. I mean, you can't come back from something like that. You know, you're done.
That's it.
I always
like playing acoustic guitars and flying electric airplanes or something like that. Spinning the other way around, whatever.
It's exactly what he said. He said, now you're playing acoustic guitars and flying electric airplanes.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Well, that's like I always thought Les McDonald's airplanes all looked about the same too. But I always kind of liked that, it's like you knew whose airplane it was.
Oh, yeah, he had definite style. I talked to Les yesterday, matter of fact.
Yeah, I think Les did a nice job of evolving the design. I mean, you start. Frankly, I never cared much. The 35 stilettos and stuff, they didn't really have much of a signature to them for me. I mean, just didn't do anything.
Back look, I didn't like that one.
Yeah, but he kept big elements of that, made it all the way it's in. And the first time I saw the 660, I think is the one. It's like that's it,
Yeah.
And then from there, everything he did, I really like. And at the 700 and stuff, the ones just before the 660, you could see he was really honing in on a design there. And then, by the time he built the last few, the I-beamers and stuff, those things were just stunning. They were like every single line was in the right place.
But he really laments the fact that he built them with such small elevators and stabilizers, they wouldn't turn in the wind.
Yeah, well, he probably had some other issues going on there too. But I remember seeing at least one of those with looked like about a half-inch of plastic added to the elevator. But
Tabs on them after the fact.
Yeah.
We were in England in '78, and the first round was like 30-mile-an-hour wind. There were steel tubes blowing down the runway, and he knew he was in trouble because he couldn't get that thing to turn in the wind. And he went into one of the scoring tents and puked his guts out just before the flight. He was so nervous. I don't think I can get through this. I said, we'll get through it.
Well, one of the things about I-beams is, especially they work good on 50-inch or classic size airplanes and stuff, but they're kind of flexible. And flexible airplanes are not happy airplanes in the wind, and I don't think that helped them any. So
no, it didn't. But they were
controls neutralized and stuff. So,
but when the weather was perfect, the things were great. I mean, so far.
Yeah.
Nice airplane.
All right.
I just run across a box down in my basement shop that I hadn't seen before, and I got up there and set up plans in there, and it was a stiletto. I don't know which one it was, but it was an old set of, looked like they were blueprint type plans. Anyway, I didn't open them up, but I was surprised that I had that at least part of a kit there. Top wasn't there. The box top wasn't there, but there were a lot of balsa in the box. So,
well, Mathis kitted the stiletto and he kitted the Genesis too, but he didn't actually. He kitted some airplanes that looked like the stiletto and the Genesis. He took a tremendous amount of liberties with both of them, and I was really kind of miffed at it because he asked me if he could to kit it, and I said sure, and he offered me a small stipend, and I said okay, and I got to cut the wings for it too. I sent him down big huge boxes of wings for it. And when I got the kit back, it was nothing like my airplane. Nothing like my airplane.
Just had the wing in it, huh?
It was a different size and everything else. It was, yeah. I don't know.
Well, that happened to Southwick too.
What's that?
That happened with Southwick on a Skylark.
Yeah. When Sterling kitted that.
Yeah.
That's why I won't let any of my airplanes be kitted. I had a number of people approach me about kitting airplanes, and I eventually said no, because if they kit it and they do it wrong and it doesn't perform up to somebody's expectations, they'll always blame the designer, not the kit manufacturer. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Huge point. So I don't know. I made a statement here a week or two ago about it. It's like every classic design is like. All right, you got the way it was published, the way it was actually built, and the way that the designer wished he could. Maybe a third variation is the way it went into the kit, and then the final variation is the way that the the designer actually remembered he wished he had built it, or something like that. So
Well, Billy,
that's why they're all 75 square inches bigger now than they were back in 1965.
the famous story about Billy, with the Aries, the kitted Aries, he gave them the one from the year before that wasn't such a hot airplane because he didn't want to have to fly against his own airplane.
Yeah.
He gave him an older version of it.
Yeah. Well, you mean the Embroid? The Embroid version? Yeah, I had heard that the Embroid was not truly accurate, or accurate to what he was flying.
Right.
But my brother had one of those, and the only airplane I've ever seen that it would literally stop flying. I mean, he was doing something. It was like 30 degrees in the sky, and the airplane literally fell from 30 degrees into the ground. It was like, what the hell just happened? Some kind of deep stall or something like that. And it just went crazy.
Aries, the Greek god of war, just met the Greek god of asphalt.
Yeah. That's about it. So he wasn't real happy with that, but I don't know. Anyhow,
Well, the Aries didn't fly that well, or not?
the Embroid kit didn't fly very well. And even then, there were some people who said theirs flew well, and I think the only thing I can conclude is they built them very light, or they didn't ask them to do very much.
What had an airplane? He said they had to be 36, 37 ounces. They got into the 40s, they wouldn't fly at all.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, I got a question. Brodek had me draw the Aries up for his kit. And I'm trying to remember which version that was. Was that the 62 or do you know?
You got the 59. Brodek has the 59. So
that was, the 62 was a good one too. When he designed the 62, this story I got right from Billy was he was working with Hy Johnson. He had got Hy Johnson at the Nats, and Hy said, "I'd like to build a stunt motor. I'd like you to run it." And Billy said, "Okay." So he started designing a larger Aries, figuring it'd have more horsepower. But when he got to Johnson, it just didn't have the characteristics, the two core characteristics. It wouldn't run properly. So he had to put a Fox in it, and he said it was just too much for the Fox. So he revived it years later for VSC when he had Aero Tiger 36s, and it worked great.
Sure. That's an easy 30% power up. So
Dick had one, and Bobby McDonald had one, and they all flew great. But they needed horsepower,
Yeah. It was funny. Ronald McDonald told almost an identical story. He published an airplane called the Challenger, which Lenny.
Hey,
anyhow, the Challenger was was his regular Detroiter stunner with a trike gear in it.
Yep.
And he built it for the Johnson 35 instead of for the Fox. And he said, basically the same story. He just could not, for the life of him, get a stunt run out of that engine.
Yep.
And ended up not flying the airplane very much or doing much with it because of that. So
the Johnson was a sub-piston port induction motor, right?
I think so.
And I think that was part of the problem.
Yeah.
If it's usually sub-portant, whatever is more for higher RPM.
Yeah, and Johnson's ran pretty fast,
Well, so you go full circle on it. If you had tried it, with what you were discovering there back in early pipe days and stuff like that, if you would run the Johnson to its power point, you would put a 3 or 4 pitch prop on it. You'd probably been happy as a clam.
Exactly, which is what Barron was the one that really came up with that low gear thing,
Yeah.
Running high RPM and engine very flat pitch props, and it worked to perfection. But Barron was very, very smart. Very smart.
Yeah. Absolutely. So.
Well, I'm gonna go off and take my doggy out, so I'm gonna punch out of here.
Bronze doggy?
Huh?
Bronze doggy?
It's a bronze dog, yeah. It's our third golden retriever. She's crazy. I'll leave this on for a few minutes. So I can't turn it off because my mouse is hooked up to charge. So.
Well, Bob, before you go, I know you're working on a lot of other people's projects like wings and stuff like that. But what are you working on for you?
Twins. I got two
Yeah.
twins really coming along quickly now. Two completely different twins, and I also have a new Genesis. It's an inline Genesis. It's an anteater inline, the anteater thing with the longer nose. And it's the wildest looking thing I've designed in a long time, But the problem is I got, 72. I only have so many more of these left in me. So I'm going to have to kind of like figure out what I want to do first and get it done. I got like 7 airplanes started, and now I'm going to stop and finish 1 or 2, and then see how we go.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about the enlightening bug too. So
we got an enlightening bug light now.
Okay.
We need to make one with the same kind of wing that we used in the test bed twin, which is essentially what Cartier's been doing. You take a foam core and you sand it real smooth, and you inlet on the top an 1/8 by 3/8 inch channel. They go wingtip to wingtip, and you do that top and bottom. And then in the middle of that channel, you cut a couple of slots through so you can put shear web, so you don't get racking of the two spots. And all of a sudden, my went out on me here. And can you still hear me or see me?
Yeah. Can hear you and see you.
Yeah, we got you.
You're back. All right. So at any rate, what you do then is you join the wing around a control system, put a control system on a center rib, and join everything around it. Join the wings around it, and then you put 2/10 carbon mat on the wing around from spar to spar around the leading edge, and you attach it with thinned tight bond glue, and it makes like a girder. I mean, the big test bed twin flew, really well, and you can build them in like a night, So we decided we make the enlightening bug light with a 1/4 inch thick fuselage, profile fuselage, and the reason you can get away with that is you have those twin booms out on the wing. They go back to the stab to support the stab, so you can get away with a real minimal fuselage.
Sure, you can. Yeah.
And they're minimal airplanes, but you can build them in a couple of days,
Well, that's good. That actually fits the whole narrative too on trying to get a high performance, simple airplane that people can really can honestly learn to fly with, and
dozen of them and they'll all fly good,
Yeah.
So we may actually make a little semi kit out of that, because that's a really nice little idea for intermediate flyers and low advanced flyers. They fly. I mean, you ever fly a Humbug?
I never flew a Humbug. No, I remember the original, and I remember the second one. I call it the second one, the white one. He had the Tom Lay, I think, designed for him. I remember those two.
Actually, an updated version, but the original ones were amazing, and I flew one of them, and I got to tell you, it was as good a flying airplane as ever existed.
So
I watched him win VSC with that Humbug, with that Royal 28 on it, I think it was. And that you know how he was when he wasn't flying, he was out practicing. I mean, when he wasn't competing, he was out practicing. And I'd watch him out there put 3 or 4 practice flights before his main flight, and I was impressed with the plane. It looked like
They transition on a point because they don't have that flap hanging on, fighting the elevator. They just transition on a point. They turn and lock. It's what the best analogy is? It flies like Gordon's twin. And flies. That's one of the best flying airplanes on the planet, and they fly just like that. They go right with you. So.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, you're a great little airplane.
I was tickled that you took off after flying Gordon's twin, that you took off with smaller engines on your twin, because I think people were trying to fly too big engines on them, and they were pulling their arms out, and they couldn't finesse them.
Frankie Embriaco has a twin now that I designed called the a Turning Point, and I'm building one of those too. It's got retracts. And that airplane flies spectacularly well. And he's got smaller motors than I had on my twin, and it works even better. You know, lighter and better. You know, so I'm going to finish that up too, hopefully this year, because I got that one's about all the pieces are done. The wings done, the fuselage crutch, the shells are done, the tail, everything's done. It's got a control system in it and glue it together. You know.
Kind of like Rocky's or Rusty's Cardinal.
How's that?
What about it?
Everything's ready to go, and it's just he's got a Viper ahead of it now.
Yeah, it's
Been
just
sitting there.
languishing back there in the jig, waiting for me to get back to it. But I did get some super filling done on the inside of the fuselage where I had cut it a little bit too thin this weekend, so that's good.
Yeah.
Little progress.
Do you remember, Bob? One time we were talking on the phone about multi-engines, and you were talking about, I forget, there was something that had to happen, but you thought that we might wind up with like 10 half-A engines on the leading edge of a relatively large wing. You remember that discussion?
You know, to me, the more you can cover the wing with disc span, not so much disc area, although you get disc area too, but the disc span is the more important thing because you get artificial air blast then over the surfaces, more of the surface, and that's what really makes our airplanes perform. So the more wing you can cover, and not have, you know, if you cover, like you use a big prop, a single engine prop, you're going to get a lot of spiral airflow and GP and all kinds of problems. But if you use let's say two 10-inch props, you get 20 inches of disc span, and none of it's going around the fuselage. You know, it's all over the wing. And you can counter-rotate them so you don't get any of the problems. It's like jet flight. It really is. I mean, it's amazing.
You know, it's kind of funny you mention that. I've seen some of the, advanced, the free thinkers on full-size aircraft are trying to figure out how to incorporate electric propulsion into aircraft. And of course, they're looking at hybrid systems that would be basically one or two motors driving generators that drive a zillion electric motors being used for things like boundary layer control and stuff like that while they create thrust. And it's, boundary layer control is one of those things, sucking air off the wing or something like that. It's a nice idea, but hard to do when you have like just one or two or four engines on it. But it's easier to do with more engines and electric power. Hey, you just start stacking them up, man. They're easy. So
I may be dropping the dime on Jim Aaron a little bit here in this project. He's building I won't say what it is. I don't want him to lose the impact of this thing. But suffice to say, it's got 6 motors.
Wow!
Holy cow!
And he sent me today a video of the test bed. He has a top flight score, and he modified it, put 6 motors on it.
Wow!
And Brett Buck took a video of it, and it's at once hilarious and incredibly impressive.
Yeah,
it's really funny, but it flies good.
Wow!
Yeah.
Imagine 10 motors with 4-inch props and basically no wheels. And you mount the wheel right in the bottom of the fuselage. You don't need a landing gear.
You're going to put one of them Dornier DOXs or something, that have the 10 motors on it, 12 motors, whatever it was.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So
and he asked me about it because he knew I was into multi-motors. And I said, well, you can go to these really small motors. And I said, because, it gets more efficient when you go to more motors. And so we use these real small motors. He says, these are not going to work. I know it's not going to pull the size airplane. I says, it's going to pull it just fine. He says, you want to bet a steak dinner on it? I said, sure. Well, today, after seeing the video, I stepped back. I said, I'll have mine medium rare, please. And he said,
yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
This thing pulled all over. It was great.
That's it.
And that was and them scores are heavy ass airplanes too.
Yeah.
They are heavy.
Too, because he's got the front end of the airplane cut open, and he's got the battery sticking out the nose of the airplane to balance it. It's really funny.
Hey, Philly Skip just showed up. First time he's ever been here. Hey, Skip, how you doing, man? He's in YouTube, not on video. What in the world's that noise?
Good guy.
That's coming at my end. Sorry.
Oh,
I set the alarm for the back door. My wife just went out to get a Pepsi, I guess. But
thought we had a cricket invasion or something.
yeah,
I'm gonna go out.
Everything sounds funny with these earphones in.
a giant
Wrong
Midwest
time.
cricket.
Wrong time of year.
Yeah,
That's,
I got to go get me a new set of speakers for the computer now. I guess my old Logitech system fried after, 15 or 18 years? It must be that old now. It's been through 3 computers. Computers usually last me about 6 years. So, yeah, I fired it up this evening and no sound. Light doesn't come on or anything. So, it's a 5.1 system, Logitech system. I bought it at Best Buy. Let's see, somebody's doing a show and tell. Let me click on that.
Yeah,
That's
I've
Steve.
been doing a little bit of work. This is Sam Lonke's airplane.
Oh, good.
But
Cool.
yeah, once I got over here though, I had to peel back off because I always buy the lead outs. I get a wrinkle or whatever, and I can't get it out, so I have to try again.
They
But
took the
model is
whole
that?
thing off?
huh?
Took the whole thing off just because of one wrinkle?
Yeah.
Okay.
What model is that?
It's an Oriental.
Oh hell, what is this thing? I
An
never.
Oriental.
It's an Oriental.
Oriental.
Oriental, all right.
Yeah.
What it is that John Paris had it all ready to silk span and paint, but it's an ARC and it's beautiful, but I can never paint that light. And the one that the 2 of them that Samantha had, they both weighed 43 ounces as they were. And if I paint it, I know that thing will be up close to 50 ounces. And it's like, it just won't fly good at that weight. So
Okay.
I did that. But the problem is that the elevator and the flaps are already hinged and glued in place. So
Makes it
I
hard
got
to
it
do the iron
pretty
on.
good. I got to see what I can do. Otherwise, I'm just going to paint some kind of scheme on there to hide any balsa wood.
Oh, you got the Pathfinder LE, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, thank
Looks
you.
like
It's fairly large.
Yeah, it looks like it is.
But I wanted to show you how the main gear are. See how far forward they are? They're designed to be just about a half an inch behind the center of gravity, so that it doesn't take a lot of pressure on the elevator to lift the nose, and that way it takes off smoothly. But if you put it too far back, like some people try to do, then you got to put a lot of pressure, and it pops up into the air when you go to take off.
okay.
So that was kind of one of the things we did with the LE. But one of the things I showed this earlier. No, it's trike gear.
What kind of airplane?
Pathfinder.
Nose gear.
Here's the nose gear. I showed this earlier when there was just 2 or 3 of us here. This is the nose gear.
Okay.
It's mounted to the cowl. And I've done this on about, maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 trike gear planes. And I've never had a problem what it does is I don't have to try to run this wire up through and into a bulkhead back there, and that makes my wire a little shorter, so it makes it a little less prone to spring around and elongate this hole here.
So
If you hit hard on your nose, huh?
The cowl stayed on, but the airplane fell off.
Yeah. Way to go, Bob.
Good.
Yeah, you've been around that. Yeah, you've been around Billy too much. I'm not that fast. The way this is held on is you can probably see it here. See that plate there?
Yeah.
With screws in it.
Yeah.
That captures the nose gear, and so I've got 2 pins up here, and those plug into the nose ring, and I got 1 bolt back here that screws in and holds it all together. And that has been this plane is years old. I fly it off the grass and off the asphalt, and actually the nose gear has bent back just a little bit because of the grass.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's how the Pathfinder LE set up. I want to build another one, because this one is one of them that I've had problem. I was talking about earlier with my my soldering my flap horn on. I used Stay Bright, and I had about 4 or 5 airplanes all of a sudden, all about within a year of each other. The flap horn loosened and would float, and it's unnerving when you're doing a major maneuver or something, and all of a sudden you don't have as much control as you thought you had, and your handles like this or like this, So I don't know. I don't know if I can trust any of those anymore, even though I fixed them. I'll build a new one.
That's really weird that Stay Bright would let loose.
Oh, that's not that strong.
Well, it did.
You got to braze them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm coming to that opinion as well.
You
I
can
have a
braze,
local guy I just take it to and have him brazed if I need a couple.
you go to a supply store and you can get silver braze and you can get the flux, and you can melt it with with one of the super hot burnzomatics. You can.
Oh, really?
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Do it all the time.
Yeah, I'm going to try that, Bob.
Yep. It really works.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I know I used a little flame to solder this Stay Bright, and I thought I had good penetration, and the metal was clean and that, but the Stay Bright just cracked a little bit apparently and allowed it to turn. There was enough pressure there on that spot. Now Gordon had told me to elongate the hole a little bit. I went in and run a piece of wire on top, maybe 3/32 or 1/16, somewhere in that area, and put that on top of a short piece, then wrap some copper wire around both of those, and then solder it. And he says that'll keep it from twisting, and I'm pretty sure he's probably right. But some of the larger, especially these larger stunt ships, I think we're getting a lot of pressure on the flap horn. That's where all of the forces are combined right at that point.
Put a little less
So
lower that stick pressure.
yeah.
Oh, just make sure when you're soldering that you got both pieces at the same temperature, or otherwise we call it capping. And it'll lay it in there, and it'll stick on one, and it looks like it's stuck on the other, and it will not be. It'll look nice.
Hey, listen, Denny, when you were showing those pictures before of the canard, how did you do that? How did you access your picture library on this thing?
So, open a picture on your computer on your own screen, all right, and then minimize it,
So I got to lower this thing. Okay. And then I
Then
go in here.
you minimize it, so it's still you got the little emblem on the bottom where the picture is, right? See where that is?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find where I want
All right.
to. So I open a picture on my own screen. Okay, I got that.
And then just leave it open, like you'll minimize it or whatever.
Right.
And then on the here on the Jitsi screen, I see all the way in the left where it says share your screen. All the way on the left
If you mouse
bottom,
over,
all the way on
if
the
you mouse over, it should pop up.
next to the
Three
little
icons,
hand.
a hand.
oh, by the hand. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Okay.
See the one that says share your screen?
No, it doesn't say anything.
Not until you put the arrow on it.
Okay.
If you hover over it, it will. Yeah.
All right. Hold on. I'm waiting for that little hand to come back. It's not back. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now.
Yeah, the hover over the far left one. That's the screen
Okay.
share.
Then click on it.
Click on that.
Hold on. Let me see if it comes up again. I can't get it to come up. How do you get that to come up? Okay, there it is now. Click on that.
All right. Now you should have a window in the middle of your screen now that says something like share your screen.
Yeah.
All right. You have to click on that little window, and then down at the bottom of the box, there's a little thing. When you click on above and then you click below, when you click above, the share light will share light lights up, and you click on share.
Yeah, I seen it for a second there.
Bob.
You did something right.
Bob, it's
You had it for a minute, Bob.
When you say, Bob, when you say share
Hey,
your
how'd you
screen,
in?
you have your entire screen, application window, or Chrome tab. You need to click on the application window first.
Share your screen, your entire screen.
Next to its application window,
Application. Oh, there you go. Okay.
click on that.
Okay. Share.
And now you should see an application window, whatever. Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
That's
Ooh, look at that.
that's
Now,
that's Frankie.
That's really
twin.
cool. Now, by the way, you have the screen now, so whatever you put on your own computer screen shows up on ours. So
Okay. Be careful, right?
now I'm looking at some airplane porn right now. This looks really cool.
Now that's Frankie's version of my turning point. And obviously he doesn't have the cowls on the bottom of the spinners on. That's just after he had it cleared. But that's the new twin.
Are y'all
That's
seeing?
nice.
That's all right. There we go.
Yeah,
Now we got it.
That's a retract gear twin. I did the test flights on that, and it's amazingly good flying airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Way better than the one I'd flown last time. And this actually outflies Delaney's airplane too, so that's pretty significant. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
That's great.
one of the keys I think you got there that I like is the twin rudders. You got them right behind the motors.
Yep. And things got tremendous elevator
It makes a
authority.
difference.
Well, the elevator authority
Oh yeah.
with the twin rudders is amazing, you know. So, let me see.
Bob, you lost your screen there, Bob.
I'm still getting it. Bob has
I don't
having
have it.
connectivity problems.
I want
That's what it
to
says.
try something else here now.
I think your camera is off. It's turned off.
No, my camera's on.
I have an icon here that says your camera is turned off.
Yeah. Participant has stopped the camera.
Oh, hold on.
You go down in the middle of the bottom and click on the camera.
That coming back on?
There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
That's another picture of it.
How many squares is that, Bob?
About 630. It's not a very big airplane.
Yeah, it doesn't look that big. Look kind of smallish, actually. First blush.
Have you noticed anything interesting about the trailing edge of the wing?
Looks amazingly thick.
Yeah, where have you seen that before, Dennis?
I don't know. Some Midwesterner had some wet dreams like that.
Called the Eclipse or something?
Yeah, that's it.
No,
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a good airplane. All right, so my camera's not on.
Yeah, we lost
Right.
it again.
Turned off.
now you're okay, I think.
Okay, I think you need to go to the stop sharing. You should have a little window on the bottom. When you're finished sharing, just put stop sharing. I think that'll turn your camera back on.
Stop.
See it down at the bottom?
Yeah, I think the camera automatically turns off while he's sharing.
Is it back on now?
No.
Not yet.
No.
Have you seen a button called stop sharing?
No, I don't see that button.
Should be right down at the bottom somewhere. Move your mouse around. Maybe it'll light up.
Hmm.
Cancel. How about cancel? Is that better?
No.
No.
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
Move your mouse down into the bottom center of the screen and see if any buttons pop up that will allow it's a microphone, a telephone, and a camera.
Yeah, I got those.
Go back to your.
Yeah,
Go back to the camera and click that.
I did, and it's on now.
And it still shows off.
your little thumbnail picture shows it with a slash through it, meaning off.
Okay.
I have to keep or I get kicked out.
Oh.
I don't know what's going on, Bob.
Well, I could go off and come back again. Maybe that'll help.
That would fix it.
Hmm.
Seems like it'd be a better way to do it, but
We've all had to do
Yeah.
that from time to time.
yeah, Jitsy's kind of glitchy, but
It is.
sometimes better than others.
Like I always say, because I'm Canadian, I have to leave my camera off. They don't want to see.
Yeah, yeah, you're just a big L.
Hey, John,
Hey, take
Yeah.
if you get some solder with more silver in it, you can
Yeah.
add that to it and blend that solder.
My back?
Can I?
You're back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I
Bob's
have
coming back.
I have somewhere, and I can still get some more. That they come in a tube about maybe 18, 20 inches long, a flat silver solder plumbers use,
Yep.
and I can get some of those.
Yeah,
And I might try.
you can just add that. Stay Bright is kind of a name, and I got up to 45% silver, but it's real hard to use. Usually around 30%. I think the stuff that everyone calls Stay Bright in the roll, that's only 2 or 3% silver.
That's just solder.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Bob, you're back.
Come back.
What do you use? What do you use to? My brain's not working. What do you use to prep your joint before? What, acid or what?
I always use acid because I think it's a little easier. But you can use a hard solder paste on that.
Well, they got a flux. They got a flux for brazing. They got a brazing flux. It's like a milky white stuff, and you just brush it on. And
Yeah, we call it hard solder paste.
I don't know.
Okay, the question is, where do you get these supplies?
go to a welder's.
You get them at a welder supply?
Yeah, plumbers, a lot of plumbing houses will even have, you tell them you need hard solder paste. It's just white milky stuff.
Yeah, that's what I use. That white milky stuff,
Yeah.
and it works great.
But acid works the same way. I got a bottle of acid and I just hit it with that to clean the metal. The strongest you can get is what's called Silfloss. But you have to get the metal red hot to get it to solder.
Mm-hmm.
And that's strong enough to fill a 1/4-inch hole in copper.
Wow.
So what I showed all the guys in the plumbing department what to do was, if you got water in a line, you can't solder it. So what I showed them is just take a 1/4-inch drill bit, drill in and drain your water out at the low point, and then when you're done fixing it, just take sill floss and just go over that 1/4-inch hole. And we use it in refrigeration up to 600-700 pounds it'll hold.
Huh?
So
Really?
yeah, in a 1/4-inch hole. So in plumbing, where you go up to 60-70 pounds, you know, you're so far over what it's rated for.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
Yeah.
But if you use sill floss, you have to use that hard solder paste. Acid doesn't work for some reason. I don't know why. But the white milky
Well, I don't know if I need to go as strong as a sill floss, but you know, probably you say about 20% silver might be the ticket.
Yeah. Yeah, if you get stuff. The other thing is that when you go to get it, I think it's 35% is the cheapest silver bearing solder, because everybody uses that. If you go more, it's more expensive, and if you go less silver, it's more expensive.
Huh.
So you can get a price on it, and I mean, I don't know if you can buy it in 1/10 of a pound anymore or what, but it's super expensive.
Okay.
That's the bad part about that.
We've got a store in Salt Lake that deals with stuff that has been salvaged from tractor trailer wrecks and stuff like that. The goods have all been written off by the insurance company, and so they fill their store with it. I went in there once and bought 14 tubes of that stuff.
Oh,
But
wow.
I loaned it to a friend of mine wanted some, and so I told her, well, she could you know, take a picture. Well, she took all but one tube of it.
Right?
But I got it cheap. I got it for like $1 a tube, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cheap, because the last tube I bought, and I think it weighs 2 pounds or whatever in a tube. And it was like $280 for that.
oh my God.
Holy
Wow.
smokes.
Yeah, silver is
Wow.
way up in solder. And I called for a PO, and they said, well, come to the shop and get a couple sticks of that. And I said, I tell you what, call somebody with a couple sticks and have them go solder this thing. Because if I'm not trusted with $200 and some worth of solder,
Yeah.
you don't need to employ me anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This friend that took all that silver solder, she was into stained glass and stuff like that. I
Oh,
wonder if she was going to try it in that.
probably. Seemed like it'd be way too hot, though. It wouldn't
That's
melt.
what I would think.
Yeah, it wouldn't melt low enough.
Maybe she's going into the control horn business.
Maybe.
Yeah, could
Oh,
be.
man.
Yeah, but the shop was complaining because they had like $3,000 worth of solder out at a time on the trucks. We all had a tube of solder.
Wow.
So I can see why they were mad, but I'm like, if you got to have it, you have to have it. Price of doing business.
Okay, you know, rather than do all that, have you guys ever considered running, for lack of a better description, an aileron linkage out to a horn in the middle of the flap instead of running it off at the end? I guess I'm thinking either a tubing cable or even a bell crank arrangement or something like that. I'd like to run a push rod off the long arm of the bell crank into the line.
Danny,
Adjust your
Danny,
speaker.
you got microphone problems
You mean
again.
like the RC guys do, Danny?
Yeah, similar to that, only drive it off the bell crank instead of off of the servo. That's
Yeah,
why.
the problem is then you're going to have a 90-degree out on the wing, and you have one more linkage area.
Well, that's why a tube and cable might work. The major thing there being how much, can you live with the drag and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they also are temperature sensitive. They'll grow and they'll shrink at temperature, extreme temperature.
Well, the plastic rods will, but the cable rods won't.
Yeah, and that has too much friction in it.
Yeah.
So
Well, I always thought that I was going to try a pull
Mhm.
on the bell crank, set that up. But
Yeah, I was just trying to get rid of the welded horn completely. That's all.
yeah,
And with a pull, you end up with basically a welded horn with 2 ears on it, which is, nothing wrong with that. But it doesn't get you past the whole silver soldering thing in the first place, which is what I was really hoping to do. But
Benny, you disappeared.
did I?
Yeah.
You're
Over
lucky.
here.
I see him.
I got it.
that's him.
I'm not
Yeah,
complaining.
Lynn left, but I see Dennis.
Now he disappeared for me. This
We're not complaining.
gypsy
We're not really
program
complaining.
is just glitchy.
I guess I'm in that. I'm into that ethereal fog or something like that.
Floating around from reality to
Yeah,
reality.
I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop floating these ideas out there. Maybe that's the problem. But all right,
You're back with me now.
all right.
This
I'm
is
back.
just a glitchy thing we're working with here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I see you.
Yeah.
You never left.
I never saw you leave.
Hmm. Oh well.
I didn't say hi, Charles. Hi.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, how's it going,
Hi,
John?
Charles.
Hey,
And
Charles.
Bob Hunt.
Oh, good.
I've seen you. So I'm glad to see you on the show.
Yeah.
And Denny and everybody and
Good
Rusty
to be
and
here.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Steve, Tryan, and Lynn.
Yeah.
Is that everybody?
That's everyone.
That's about it.
All right.
Got the whole crowd.
Can't see
And
you.
Billy
Sure.
Skip. Hi, Billy Skip.
Yeah, Skip said he was going to bed. I think he's
Yeah.
checked out on us.
Mhm.
Yeah, I met Billy Skip at Brodax 2016. It was nice meeting him.
I got a picture of him in my desktop slideshow standing on the middle of a frozen lake in the middle of a blizzard flying an airplane.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Skip's had some real bad
Wow.
shoulder and neck problems. He's had a hard time flying because his neck has really been bothering him.
Oh, that's terrible.
Too bad.
I can commiserate with that myself. My neck.
Yeah. Well, it probably has something to do with he was flying advanced classic stunt. Danny Banjak and I were judging last year, and he promised Danny he was going to do this. After his flight, he mooned us. So
Yeah,
There you go.
that's it. And later on, he wrote something in Stunthangar. He says, "Oh, by the way," he says, sorry about that. That was between me and Danny and all that." And I says, "Well, I thought it was kind of funny, except there's some things you just can't unsee." But anyhow,
Schaefer did
Seared
that.
into your memory.
Gene Schaefer did that once to John DeTavio. He mooned him when John was judging. He wasn't too happy with him after the first round, so he mooned him on the second round.
oh man,
That's awesome.
It's an East Coast thing, you know.
that's it. That's crazy stuff. Oh well.
Pretty funny.
Hey, I had something else. We were talking. Did anybody want to get back into this? Last week, I think it was Friday, we were talking a little bit about what Wesley Dick's double flap system and all that kind of stuff. And I got a couple little drawings and stuff if people want to take a look at that. You want to take a minute or two and
Yeah,
look at that
sure.
stuff? All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
Sure.
All right. First off, let's see. It start with the. Oops. Wait a minute. I'm out of control
go.
again.
So really, ironic.
Screen share.
One flap horn being hard to solder and everything, and now we're going to go into this 14 different things on the.
he does it. He makes it easier than a single flap. I don't know how he does it. Well, the first thing I wanted to show is I made a comment, and if you go into Wikipedia, there's a little article there on flaps, aeronautic, and if you go there, they got a really nice layout and kind of a history of flaps and what they mean by a plain flap or split flap or slotted or whatever else. And if you're really, really bored or whatever, you can go take a look at that article and nice little rundown on what different kind of flaps do and mean and everything like that. And anyhow, that led Wes to design. He wanted to get more performance out of his flap system,
Wow.
and so he tried designing this double slotted flap that would move both directions. Mostly, normally flaps are designed obviously to work just one way on a big airliner and all that kind of stuff, and so they all kind of nest up real nice. And when they deflect, they only go one way, so it's not a problem. And he designed it to go both ways.
Yeah, he calls it a bidirectional blown slotted flap system.
Yeah, that's it. And in fact, it was funny. He put little decals on there showing all that bidirectional blown flaps. And this airplane, by the way, is in the AMA museum now. He was able to get it there. Bidirectional double slotted blown flaps. Says so right on the airplane. So.
Yeah.
And the way he did it, he's got this remarkably simple mechanism. Basically, this carries the main flap, and then the little flap in between is kind of slaved off of it, gets dragged along. And what you get out of it is the first flap only moves half the distance of the second flap. All right, so you get this progressive thing, and then you get these slots in between each where the air is supposed to come off the wing and then flow on down, but it's supposed to also stay attached going through that slot, and everything like that. And it's because it's progressive, the chances of generating separated airflow on the top are, I think, reduced. He's got this mechanism that he hand cut his originals. I saw what he had, and I says, hey, I think we could laser cut that. So I took the stuff and made just basically a plywood plate there that you can laser cut, and all the spacers and hinges and all that are in it. And Wes was so impressed. He asked me how I designed it. He got the program, the draft site program, taught himself design CAD, and he drew up the velvet for Pampa News, for Pampa Stunt News, and it was published 3 years ago or so.
Yeah, I remember.
And I think a 2-part article in there, and how he come up with the concept, and how he did it, and everything like that. But basically, that's what it that's what it's about. You can see it goes either way. There it is, going the opposite way, 15, 30, and all that kind of stuff.
I can't.
And he's come up with a couple of simplifications on it, even beyond this, that work really, really well. And he's put that in his his Velvet 5 that should be ready for paint right now.
Hey,
He's
Ben,
got
I
it.
cannot see you here.
Dennis.
I'm sorry?
I can see it.
I can't see it.
I cannot.
No.
All right. We're
Yeah,
back to that again.
Yeah, I see it
Okay.
fine too.
Well, we tried that last week and it didn't. We had some trouble with sharing too. I thought these static
I wish I
pictures
knew.
worked pretty.
Well,
Yeah,
I
John
see it.
Yeah, I wish I knew why it was like that, but this is just a glitchy program we're on.
Yeah,
Mhm.
John Paris is putting his into paint right now, his Velvet. And he's got some kind of new flap system, though, that Wes told him about or something. So it's a little bit different than.
Yeah, Wes has changed the mechanism just a little bit, and actually, it's going to make it a little. Let's see, what did he do? He's somehow pivoting this and then letting it. He moved the sliding mechanism to the edge, or to this edge, I think it is. But the cool thing, and Larry Fruits has built one of Wes's airplanes from his laser cut design, from his laser kit, but basically he drew, so it's exactly the same as was published in Stunt News. And we're going to do he's got it set up with a plain flap, and he can switch out into the double slotted flap. So we will sometime this summer here. Larry has flown the airplane with plain flaps so far, and basic, going through basic trim and stuff like that. Says the airplane flies very well, and he was at the point basically at the end of the year last year where he was ready to do a comparison, a back-to-back comparison to the plain flap and a double slotted, just to see where it's at. And the way that he's got it set up, it's even conceivable he could put the plain flap on one side and the double slot on the other side. And he actually had anticipated possibly trying that. The assumption, the presumption based on what's been published about double slotted flaps is that they are better at generating lift but generate less drag. That's a nice combination for a stunt plane. More lift, less drag. And so if you were to do it side by side on a control line airplane, if you put the double slotted on the inboard wing, you should be generating more lift and less drag, and should show up as some combination of a roll out and a yaw out with a plain flap on the other side. All right, less lift and more drag because of the plain flap on the outboard side. So I don't know. It's Larry's airplane, so I suggested that would be a good test configuration. So
I'll have to let John know about that because I know that he said something about the way that I asked him, I said, well, what if you don't like, the split flaps? And he says, well, then I can just change it over and put regular ones on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know you could do it, but yeah, he's probably come up with another design.
Well, actually, and I think Frank Williams has actually taken Wes's mechanism, and he actually, if you can imagine this, a single slotted flap. Imagine this surface moved up to here, and at deflection, the nose of this surface would be below the wing and stuff. So Frank Williams has been using Wes's mechanism to experiment with a single slotted flap design. That basically, it's, if you will, the flap flies behind the main wing, and at deflection you get a slot, over the flap, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different things you can do that. And of course, the way Larry made his is he made it with basically a simple flap with a hinge right at the trailing edge of the wing.
Well, what I never understood is that we always take the hinge line. So basically, that bottom one there even makes a bigger hole for air to go through.
Exactly. That's where the idea of the blown flap, if you will, you're blowing air through the slot and forcing it through there, as opposed to sealing. This is as far counterintuitive to a sealed taped hinge line as you can get, because the sealed hinge line, obviously we're trying to prevent all of that and try to maintain a single continuous surface. And with this, he's consciously making an effort to get three surfaces deflecting the air, two surfaces behind the main deflecting the air to create the lift. So
yeah, he's controlling the air that's going through, whereas normal flap, we've got it too big a gap, we're not controlling it.
Yeah, and of course, you control it by sealing it, so there isn't any. So
right,
yeah,
that's the only control we have.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyhow,
I'm gonna sign off for tonight.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to.
Appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, good to be back again. I'll try to make it Friday.
no, I didn't mean to chase everybody off with that, but
Oh, you didn't? No.
No, you didn't, Denny. I'm getting over a cold here, and I'm getting tired early. So
all righty.
Yeah, I am too. I'm kind of looking at the clock myself. So take it easy, and thanks for coming and visiting with us. And
Yeah, man.
we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having us. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care, Bob.
Good night.
Nice talking to you, Bob.
All right, Bob, take care. Good to see you.
Lost Bob, and Steve he just walked away. He didn't even bother turning it off. So oh well. I didn't mean to scare everybody away.
Denny, your camera's off.
Well, that's good news, isn't it? No, I might. Okay, I'm at the same situation as Bob. It shows. I'm showing that my camera is on. You're saying it's showing off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows us off. I don't know.
All right.
It's something
I'm
about
gonna
screen
reload.
sharing and it cuts it off.
I'm
And
gonna go reload here.
that's the quickest way that I know.
Carter.
I think both approaches are valid approaches.
Mhm.
To do a blown flaps like that, or to seal it and have it work good.
Mhm.
What I'm thinking is that if you seal it and if you don't have good
That
efficiency of
blown
it,
slotted flap's not something I would have ever imagined,
Mhm.
and especially for a stunt ship. But
so I'm thinking if
you
you
could try all kinds
seal
of
it,
different stuff. Huh?
I would put some turbulators just in front of the on the trailing edge of the wing, right, just in front of the flaps. So what you do, you keep that airflow stuck to the flaps at high deflection angles. Another thing, I was just thinking about this not too long ago, and uh, what I'm thinking is we could probably help us a lot. It's a new flaps horn mechanism, and what I'm thinking of is just simply a better way to put more mechanical advantage, so you can move the flaps up and down at on demand. I think that would help. You know, so
Mhm. I don't know. I think there's a lot of, we think that everything's been done and everything like that, but there really hasn't. And even within what we have, I think there's always a chance for new optimizations and stuff. Uh, the whole idea of the turbulators or vortex generators or anything like that, to more closely control the boundary layer and stuff. That's so new to where we're at and everything like that. I don't think we've really exploited. We haven't even scratched the surface of what there might be waiting in store with that. Everybody's putting them up front, but you're making sense. You've suggested many times here we need to put them farther back in the wing, and every time you say that, it makes perfect sense to try to activate the airflow and over the flap and stuff. I like that. So
yeah, to me it
we're
makes sense. Yeah, where do you have separation between the airflow and the flaps?
mm,
Right where the flaps begins, and right onto the very back of it, right?
yeah. I can't imagine that the airflow stays attached. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Well, again, depends on the deflection, but it just. And then our control deflections are so quick. All right, they're very very short duration. I'm not sure if the airflow even stabilizes, to a fully attached or separated kind of condition. I think it's an instantaneous kind of thing. It kind of flips and goes away and then comes back, when we go to neutral and stuff. So, the time element is hard for me to deal with in my mind. So,
I think it's instantaneous.
It's pretty fast.
yeah, our control inputs are awfully quick. Does the airflow react as fast as our control inputs?
Yeah, of course, it's not normal.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to react fast, but it's such a transient condition. So I don't know.
I'm
I'm gonna step
wondering.
away for a minute.
I'm
I'll be right back.
wondering with some of the more information that we've gotten since the 50s on design and design practices and airfoils and all that we've learned. I'm wondering if we really, or I'm beginning to see that the flaps aren't as important as they used to be. That a lot of non-flap ships are putting in some pretty decent flights.
Yeah, that's been one of the things, I guess, the eye openers for me since I started flying some of the old time airplanes is that they perform far better than I would have expected them to. They're certainly not head to head competitive with a modern airplane or anything like that, but they're not that far out. It's not a night and day difference. It's a certainly the difference is clear, but it's not it's not a totally different animal like I always thought it was.
Yeah, I've
I
often
think
wondered.
When
Go ahead.
when Gilbert can take an S1 ringmaster and win expert stunt with it, yeah, they have, you know, the pilot's up to it. They have the ability.
yeah, well, the Ringmaster is a piece of crap airplane too. I mean, let's be honest.
Exactly.
The best Ringmaster in the world is still a piece of crap. And
Yep.
but it then there's a lot better flapless airplanes than a Ringmaster. Like take a Flight Streak for example.
Yeah,
But
or even
Yeah.
rotary
I
force
mean,
system.
it's so they're a lot better. It begs the question, and both you and Bob are singing the praises of the humbug and everything like that. It really begs the question: is it time to really make a concerted effort to see, all right, what have we learned about airfoils? What have we learned about this? What of that? What have we learned about just putting great big tails on airplanes and stuff like that? Just what can we get out of a flapless airplane? Is there performance that we've taken for granted we could never get, but really it is there,
I'd love to try and build a flapless airplane and make it competitive. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think a very simple way to increase performance is by adding mechanical advantage to your control surfaces. We
Sure.
have a limited amount of line tension, which in turn is being translated into force to deflect the flaps or the elevator, right?
Right.
Now that in turn limits how much deflection we're going to have on a plane. And of course, you have the speed as well. The slower you fly, the more deflection you can get. But in general, you kind of fly at constant speed, and kind of the same thing across the board. You'll be looking at ranges from like 5.3s to 5.5s or somewhere over there. So it's not a huge difference between them, right? But now, if you put mechanical advantage on your control surfaces, now all of a sudden you have double the pressure that you can add to the flaps and the elevator, and for the same line tension that you have, you are likely to be able to deflect them much more than you ever had prior to that. And I think that's going to be a huge bang for the buck as of being able to corner the plane hard and fast.
That's interesting. And that same train of thought, if you were not if you had a flapless airplane, so you weren't pushing flaps at all of a sudden, all your mechanical advantage is none of it is going into the flap and all of it is going into the elevator. It would seem to me like you could count on the elevator for a lot more power, through either more deflection or a larger size or something like that. But yeah, that might actually dovetail. Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking that more deflection, either in the flaps or in the elevator, isn't necessarily a good thing. That I've found in my stunts, like I said, 26, 27 degrees of flaps and 32 to 33 degrees of elevator flies just fine. I don't understand with the desire to go to a 1-to-1 ratio. I just don't see the advantage to it. On the other hand, there's a fellow in Australia that came up with a way to control the amount of flap and the amount of elevator he was getting with any throw of his bell crank, and he tested it out to where he was doing really good flights apparently with 7 degrees of flap and about 20 degrees of elevator, if I remember my facts right on that, which shows that aerodynamically, you don't need that huge displacement. I mean, when I was a kid, we used to think we had it made if we built a Ringmaster that you could get the elevator to go to 90 degrees. We thought that would be.
Yeah, I know.
We did it.
I know. I've seen Ringmasters built like that. They're the ones that kind of wobble around the sky, aren't they?
Well, you learn real quick that you don't need much control, and so your muscle memory comes in, and you're applying very little amounts of control and doing what you need to do. But if you'd ever give it full control, it do just what you said. It darn near stall.
There is a maximum angle of deflection that will give you maximum amount of pressure on a wings or on a elevator.
Yep.
And I think the program that Dennis was sharing with us, about a week ago, I think, that it's capable of plotting all of those lift to drag ratio depending on whatever deflection you want to have. So if you design a wing, you might as well just use that system and plot your curves, and then you know for sure what's the maximum deflection that's going to give you the most bang for the buck, right? Now,
That's true.
You mentioned about the 7 degrees of flaps and whatever. I think in reality, I don't think we deflect our flaps in a flight more than 7 to 10 degrees, even though you have 100 degrees worth of travel on the flaps or whatever. Simply
on board.
because the aerodynamic pressure. I mean, you can have like full up elevator and you can hold it all the way up there, as much as you can, and because you have limited amount of line tension and you have a lot of pressure on those control surfaces, they will never deflect 30 degrees or 40 degrees or whatever you think.
Yeah, you don't need it.
Right.
Yeah, and you can test it very easily with a USB camera. Just tape it on board, let it record, and fly a flight, and put some threads with the those knitting threads, right, with a little piece of paper on. I mean, a scotch tape put top of it, and it's going to show like if the it will definitely show if the air is still attached to the flaps or not. Because if it's not, then you're stalling it and you're not doing anything. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
with Samantha's that World Championship airplane, we got it where you can adjust the elevator. Can't adjust the flaps, but we can add more elevator so it's not 1-to-1. And we ended up kind of at a compromise. The way she flew at the World Championship, she had a lot more elevator than flap, and it helped with her wing over, and the round loops were real nice, but she got a bounce. You could see it on all the corners and her squares.
Overturning, yeah.
It moved or whatever. And as we took back some of the elevator, that went away on the square, but then she had to fly the wing over and stuff different, because we found that with so much flap, when you actually do the wing over and come up, the airplane starts, it doesn't turn on your axis. It sucks back some.
Yeah.
And with more elevator, we were getting away from that sucking back on real hard square maneuvers. It didn't want to pull in that corner. But it was kind of just a fine, we kept adjusting until we could fly it to make it look as nice as possible.
this is what it sounds to me, Steve. You might have had a flap warping issue. And what I mean by that is you might have had one of the flaps deflecting more than the other one because of the quality of the wood maybe is not symmetrically built or something like that, not stiff enough, right? So when you have little deflection in the flaps, obviously you have a lot less aerodynamic force on it to warp the flaps itself. And when you start adding more and more flaps, they becomes more and more pronounced, and it jumps in your face at that point. So that's what I'm guessing.
Well, I wish you guys could fly one of those humbugs. I didn't get to fly his humbug, but I watched it fly a lot that particular contest. And like Bob said, he flew the humbug and was quite amazed by it. Bill Netzman was involved in the designing of that, and they basically had an oversized stab and elevator on it. They had no flaps, but they had to have not only the fuselage holding the elevator and stab was long enough that they had two booms coming back from the wing supporting the elevator, and helping to try to keep it alive.
Whose airplane was this?
That was a humbug.
Whose airplane though? Who flew it?
Bob Barron.
Okay, that's what I thought you were talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen a design that look a whole lot like a humbug with the same like triple boom on the elevator was a half A plane, and that flew very nicely.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I think there might be room for us to look more at some of the flapless designs, because what you're doing is you're getting rid of some complexities in your control system. When you got one push rod going back
to one horn,
from the bell crank to the horn, you can, like I always did when I used the old SIG bell cranks, I'd drill a new hole right where the eye was, right in,
okay.
So I'd move it in as about 5/8 of an inch.
Yeah.
And I'd really slow the controls down on a 3-inch bell crank, and you get very, very nice, smooth, easy, whether you run flaps or just elevator. You got nice, smooth. You can always adjust the elevator. You can make it shorter at the elevator and get more throw, or make it longer. I don't know. I'm thinking that there's some room for some thinking some of us can look into and not be afraid of a non-flapped airplane.
I'm really stoked about this idea because I'm tired of dealing with the flaps and the elevators and trying to get them just right, and I never seem to have it just right. I'm constantly always having to tweak something or mess with something. It's just I never get it quite. I always feel like I never quite get it right. I get it close, but not right.
Yeah, I've heard that so much. People get their airplanes going and they never get them quite trimmed in.
Whereas I think, like you say, if you only have the one surface to deal with and the one mechanism, it really simplifies it in a big hurry.
Well, and taking out, I'm sorry, Danielle, let me put this little thought out and then I'll let you have it. When you remove some of the weight at the back of the wing from the flaps and the complexity of the controls and the need to have a good sealing at the flap hinge line and all that, well, you can get rid of that idea and put your time and effort into the stab and elevator. You can increase the stab and elevator size, from the 24% to 33%.
Whatever you need, yeah, exactly.
Whatever you need. And, you may have to put the twin booms on it to help support it. But it's like that little twin boomer I showed you a couple weeks ago. That's the idea behind that thing. That has no flaps, but it has a large stab and elevator, and instead of having the fuselage in there in the center, it just has the twin booms. I think there's some thinking, like I've said 3 or 4 times now. Anyway, Denny, I'll let you have the floor now.
Oh, all right. I don't know. Sitting there making faces while I was thinking and everything. I didn't mean to do that. The only thing I was just going to add that when we add flaps, remember flaps themselves, they're supposed to be they improve the lift performance of the wing. All right. They're an add-on device. The flaps themselves are not the lifting device. It's only how it changes the airfoil and everything like that. You're trying to get an increment of lift from it. Well, you can get an increment of lift by building if you have a 500 square inch airplane, if you pull out the wing and put a 600 square inch wing in it, you have an incremental lift improvement, all right, increase. Or you take a 600, make it a 700. So what I'm saying is that, a 700 square inch unflapped airplane may be like a 600 square inch flapped airplane, or, some numbers along that way.
Yeah, like I don't.
So that's the first level of, that's the first increment. And now we have, you got power systems, gas or electric. They'll fly almost any airplane, any size airplane you can imagine. So that's not really a problem. We've already seen the trend towards bigger and bigger tails, even on flapped airplanes, 27, 28, 30% some cases and everything like that. There's a ton of lift, of control authority back there. And, transport about trying to take and getting more mechanical advantage to that movable surface. Well, if you have one less surface, less surface to move, or you don't move it very far, you have more power available back there to make the thing turn. I don't know. I think it you can really talk yourself into making this thing work, I guess is what I'm saying. So I don't know. I think you're right. There is something. There's room for exploration there. So.
Well, the other thing that I did on one of Samantha's vectors is that I made the flaps out of 2 pieces of 1/8 inch instead of 1 piece of 1/4. And everybody says, "Oh, don't do that. It makes the flap heavier." But it made them so much stronger.
Stiffens it up because of the.
Oh yeah, and that airplane was her best flying plane. It's like, but I don't know if the pressure on it is warping like Tryon said, one of the flaps. They look good when it's sitting there, but it's hard to see it in the air. If one of them's weak and doesn't actually bend, it straightens it out, and the other one does something.
Well, Steve, weren't you saying too that when you got back from Europe and everything, or over the winter or something like? Didn't you say that one of the flaps actually did warp on you, and you had to replace it afterwards?
I'm replacing both of them.
All right. Is it possible that you were seeing a symptom of that, that warpage or something like that? You were seeing a symptom of that before, and maybe you just didn't notice it. For whatever reason, you didn't notice it while she was flying there, but maybe it was already starting to fail.
No, we actually cut the flap and moved it while we were over there. We took a sawed the thing and then glued it back down, kind of like a trim tab deal, because you can see it was warping, but it was actually soft. And if you held everything and tried to move
the
it,
problem when it's soft, it's going to warp.
Or deflect. You're not getting a full deflection. You're getting an unreliable deflection on it, which is worse.
Yeah, stiff flaps are everything.
So what I was going to do is 2 pieces and make up new flaps for that. And I don't know if I'll ever use a solid piece of wood again for flaps. I mean, over the length of it, it's denser or stiffer or whatever.
And you never get 2 the same.
Right. And that was, the guy that kits the Pathfinder and stuff. I got that twin Pathfinder kit, and he sends it with 2 pieces of 1/8 inch. And I called and asked him about it, and he says, with the grain not being the same and they're in different directions and all that, he says it'll be so much stiffer and so much more reliable that he goes, that's why we do it that way.
Yeah, Eric Rule, I think.
How do you get your hinges in the center?
Pardon me?
How do you get your hinges in the center? You can't hinge right through glue.
Steve.
Yeah.
Consider flaps made of 3 pieces.
Yep.
And have the center one running down the span of the wing, but put the other 2 on opposite biases. Opposite biases going down. And that way you get a really stiff flap. It isn't that much heavier. It's 3/8 of an inch. And you can easily hinge the wing. That's what I'd consider if I was going to, explore where you're going. I'd try it that way.
Can
You know
I
what I mean by bias it like
Yeah.
this? Yeah.
Well,
let me share something with you?
you could do like Chris Rigotti has done on a lot of his airplanes. Is he always puts I believe it's a 1/32 inch core in his trailing edges and
It's heavy.
hinge lines on his stab and elevators, and he puts hinge pockets in that piece of 1/32. All right, and then he glues on
Cool.
top and bottom. So imagine for a flap, you're going to run that 30-second sheet, run it with the green perpendicular to the hinge line or perpendicular to the flap, if you will, and then a top and bottom layer on top of that, on it.
Yeah.
You don't even need that.
You make them plywood. You make them
Here's-
balsa plywood.
Well, you
Here's
could, make balsa plywood basically with a 30-second core and a 1/8 inch or 3/32 or whatever top and bottom.
Here's my 2 cents into this, okay? What you do, you take, this is like a 5mm with 4mm ID carbon fiber tube, right?
Mhm.
You